I'm not much of a speculator, but there's 9 comics that I have my eye on for October of 2016. Let's take a look at the ones that I think can change the game. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. On this week's weekly one-shot, what we're going to do is we're going to touch base on 9 comics for October of 2016 that I think are going to be great big hits and something that you should definitely keep an eye on and probably talk to your comic book shop about. To begin with, we're going to go with independent titles, and the first one that I want to talk about is Green Valley #1, and this is written by Max Landis. So Max Landis was behind, the movie American Ultra. He writes a lot of, screenplays and television shows and things like that. But also he was behind Superman American Alien. So the fact that he has a new comic book coming out just screams that there's a lot of promise behind that kind of story, because he turned Superman on his ear and gave us one of probably the better origin stories. I think that book is going to come down as a classic, so that's why Green Valley is definitely on my radar. Another book that's on my radar is Moonshine #1 by Brian Azzarello. So Brian Azzarello won an Eisner for his 100 Bullets kind of campaign, and then has been helping Frank Miller on The Dark Knight Master Race as a book. So Azzarello's got a great resume, and if he can deliver the same kind of independent experience that we got in 100 Bullets, I think that this book's going to be a winner as well. However, it's not really enough to unseat the #1 spot for the independent comic books, and that is Reborn #1. So Reborn #1 is a teaming up of powerhouses Mark Millar and Greg Capullo. I really like the way that Capullo has his art. I'm okay with Mark Millar as a writer, and if he can put that kind of investment into his storyline, and then they can have consistent releasing, I have no doubt that this is going to be a great story about a girl, her death, and then her rebirth. At least that's the impression that I get from the art. And the art, man, it's Capullo on a book, writing different content. It's fantastical. It's if you've watched his Twitter at all, you definitely know what I'm talking about. The other thing that's really got me stoked on this is the fact that the variant covers are all from fantastic artists. So we've got a variant cover from Jacques, we've got a variant cover from Frank Cho, we've got one from John Cassidy, we've got a subscription variant from Capullo himself, and then you've got the man behind image, and that's Todd McFarlane. He's got a 1 in 25 variant that you want to be on the lookout for, and then if you're into the ultra rare, there's a 1 in 100 sketch cover variant, so that's definitely something to be on the lookout for if one happens to drop into your local comic book shop. Once we get out of the independent titles, we're going to drop into DC, and it's really not about DC. A lot of the DC Rebirth titles have gone, and there's no schedule for Super Sons, which is really the last remaining title that I'm waiting for out of the DC Rebirth lineup, so it really comes down to things like Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye, and then Shade the Changing Girl. So these 2 books from Young Animal as the imprint from DC are really going to give us an indication as to where the rest of the Young Animal imprint is going to go. So Gerard Way, he's helping steer the ship for the first issue of Cave Carson Has a Cybernetic Eye, so you're going to probably see some writing similarities from the Doom Patrol book to this one, but in a completely different context because it's a different character, but it just happens to be on the same imprint. And then overall, I've been hearing a lot of fun coming from the Shade the Changing Girl camp, so that's got me kind of excited for that, and this is really going to it's going to be a kind of make or break month for those 2 particular books, because they're really helping out that flagship Doom Patrol book move along and launch this new imprint. And now we're down to the last of the big 3, and that's Marvel. It's going to be a situation where there's going to be a lot of brand new comic books coming out and a lot of different opportunities to hop in on #1s on new properties. So the first one that I want to take a look at is Death of X #1, written by Jeff Lemire and Charles Soule. So what I see is that this is going to be a back and forth kind of between those 2 particular writers that are going to be tackling this Inhumans versus X-Men conflict that has really frustrated a lot of fans inside the Marvel Universe, and I really want to see where that goes. So that means a lot of you should want to see where that's going to go, and there's going to be a lot of these books on the shelf, so definitely take a look for it. And there's going to be a couple different variants that are coming out for this particular book, and possibly another secondary title that's going to tie in, but that's not one that I'm really interested in right now. Next, we hop on to the Clone Conspiracy. So Dan Slott on Twitter the other day said that the Clone Conspiracy was drastically underordered, and that's true because right now there's already a second printing going for this particular book. So a lot of shops didn't make it in for their final order, and that's resulted in a lot of second printings going out. So I'm not necessarily sure if the first printing is going to be limited, but it's definitely going to be something that's a little bit smaller than what people anticipated, and possibly we're going to do a second print same week release for the Clone Conspiracy. He said that the Clone Conspiracy is going to be the main book going forward, with it tying into all the other titles that are participating in the Clone Conspiracy. So It's the one that you gotta be on if you're a Spider-Person fan. So I am. So he's got me. Next, we're going to talk about Infamous Iron Man #1, which sees the return of Doctor Doom into a particular character class and into his own recurring title. Not as a villain, but as an actual active participant and hero? We're not really sure about that, but Brian Michael Bendis has set the stage so that Victor Von Doom can return and be kind of a champion in his own right, because Tony Stark may or may not be stepping away. We still have yet to see what that final conclusion for his story arc is. But, their truth be told, I'm really excited to see what Victor can do once he steps into the Iron Man costume. Finally, we're going to talk about a book that's not a beginning, but more of an ending, and that's The Vision #12. So The Vision has been probably one of the best books out there. You know, regardless of imprint, regardless of publisher, The Vision by Tom King has told a story about a character that is completely uninteresting in most people's eyes, including my own, that was phenomenal. Easily one of the best series that has been in production the entirety of the year, and I don't know why it hasn't sold more. Maybe it's a particular taste, maybe it's something that, you know, it's for a certain type of audience, but I have just absolutely relished every single issue of The Vision, and this is going to be a bit of a sad anticipation. Because in Vision 11, we saw a pretty serious turn towards the end and a lot of ass-kicking of superheroes by the Vision himself, but we've got to see this final culmination, the real end of this story, and Gabriel Walta has done a phenomenal job with the art, so that's why I'm looking forward to The Vision probably more than almost anything else on this list. So those are my top 9 books to look out for in October of 2016, but I want to know what you guys are anticipating as well, so hit me up in the comments down below, and we'll have that conversation to see if there's anything I might have missed or something that you might want to check out a little bit more. As always, if you like what you see, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe down there to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.